What do we leave behind at the end of our lives? Are there regrets, fulfillment, or unfulfilled dreams? Today, let's go into the movie, The Bucket List, to find out how the two main characters work together to fulfill their bucket lists at the end of their lives. Carter and Edward are both admitted to the same hospital room because they have cancer. Carter is an auto mechanic. He loved life and was very knowledgeable. He has a loving wife and a wonderful family. Edward is the CEO of a medical group. Edward loves cat poop coffee. Edward was rich, but lacked the love of his family. Edward had just finished chemotherapy and was enjoying the food. Carter thought to himself, "It's not worth eating." At night, Edward threw up on the toilet 7 or 8 times. Edward looked in the mirror and complained that he'd rather die of a heart attack. Carter showed Edward pictures of his children. 2 sons and a daughter were already married. Carter asked Edward about his family. Edward says he's been married 4 times and won't say anything else. At night, Carter shivered with pain. During the day, Edward grimaced in pain. Carter and Edward would play poker together. They'd go for walks and relax. They became good friends. Carter wrote down on a piece of paper his wish list for his recovery. Edward was curious to see what Carter wanted. The doctor came to tell Edward that the cancer had spread and he only had 6 months to live. Carter also wanted to know how he was doing. The doctor looked at the case and told Carter he only had 6 months to live. Desperate, Carter threw away his wish list. The next day, Edward's assistant picked up Carter's wish list. Edward wrote his own wish on Carter's wish list. Edward's last wish was to kiss the most beautiful woman in the world. Carter laughed out loud. Carter and Edward agreed to use their last few months to fulfill all the wishes on their lists, and so the 2 terminal cancer patients embarked on a delightful journey. The first thing they did was to skydive. They saw the earth from above and experienced a sense of awe and freedom they had never known before. Edward took Carter to a racetrack. Carter got to drive the Mustang of his dreams. Then they traveled to Europe together. They ate the most expensive caviar in the world. Edward told Carter about his daughter, whom he hadn't spoken to in a while. Carter added a wish to visit her to Edward's wish list. Edward took the wish list and crossed out the one to visit his daughter. Carter said he had to go to the bathroom. Edward thought Carter was angry and waited for a long time. When they got to the bathroom, Edward saw Carter bleeding profusely from a ruptured chest tube. Then they went to the African savannah. They climbed to the top of the pyramid together. Edward shared with Carter his problems with his daughter. Her daughter was married and suffered domestic violence at the hands of her boyfriend. Edward had his son-in-law taken care of. The daughter stopped seeing Edward for years. After visiting the Taj Mahal in India, Edward and Carter discussed where they wanted to be buried in the future. Edward said he'd put his ashes in a coffee can on the highest point of Mount Everest. They had a great motorcycle ride on the Great Wall of China. They went back to the foot of Mount Everest. The assistant told them that the snowstorm on the mountain would not end until March next year. They had to give up their plan to climb the mountain. They went to Hong Kong. A beautiful woman suddenly sat her down next to Carter. The pretty girl had a nice chat with Carter. However, it didn't take long for the pretty girl to invite Carter to her room for further conversation. Carter realized that this was Edward's arrangement. Carter did not want to betray his family and refused the invitation. Edward and Carter finished their journey and returned to their own city. Returning to her family, Carter had a nice dinner with her family. Without his family, Edward lost his temper over a fast food box. Carter and his wife dancing in the living room. Edward is accompanied by a couple of women, but he is crying at the window. His wife says she has a surprise for Carter. Sitting on the couch, Carter was a little nervous. When his wife comes out, she finds Carter lying on the floor. Edward was in a meeting when he got the news that Carter's condition had worsened. Edward came to the hospital to see Carter. Carter showed Edward an article he'd found. The article was about the process of making cat poop coffee. Carter laughed at the fact that Edward's favorite coffee was made from cat poop. Both of them laughed so hard that tears came to their eyes. Carter crosses off the wish list for tears of laughter. Carter handed Edward his wish list and told him that Edward would have to fulfill the rest of his wishes himself. Edward had the courage to ring his daughter's doorbell. The daughter finally reconciled with Edward. Edward kissed his beautiful granddaughter. Edward crossed off the wish to kiss the most beautiful woman on his wish list. At Carter's funeral, Edward shared his friendship with Carter. He thanked Carter for teaching him the importance of family. Edward helped Carter cross off his wish list to help a stranger, because he was the stranger that Carter had helped. Soon afterward, Edward passed away. The 8 placed Edward's ashes on Mount Everest. Carter and Edward were reunited. This movie has touched the hearts of countless viewers with its heartfelt emotions and profound themes. It makes us think about the meaning and value of life